What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 5 of Unplayable, your favorite show that talks about our favorite games. I'm D House here with Jim, Jay, Mike. Wake up, Jay. It might be
What's up?
10:40 p.m., but it's
That's not
time
that
to
late.
talk our favorite games.
I just had some coffee, so I'm good.
Oh my goodness.
A good old classic 10 o'clock at night cup of coffee.
It is only 7:40 for me, so I'm
Oh, yeah.
much more awake.
Jim, how are you doing?
I'm great. Had a busy but eventful weekend, so thriving, doing well. Yeah.
Yep.
Same.
I just got off a plane like 30 minutes ago, 45 minutes ago, and rushed
This
home
man is dedicated.
to record this.
Dedication.
So, are we a Lorcana podcast? What are we doing
No.
here? Is this something?
Absolutely not.
What is this? What are we doing?
That's
In
a hard
fact-
no. But we do talk about the games that we enjoy, and this is
True.
the current game.
This
that we
is the
enjoy.
hot topic right now, you know?
This is
So,
good.
of course we're going to talk about it. What we're
It's
playing
definitely the
probably the most.
I would say it's the one that's definitely taken up the most of my mental space recently. So it's yeah, of course I'm going to talk about it right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to deny it. All these people are going to fall in love with us and then follow us into whatever the next game is, or drop us completely. You know,
That's probably more likely.
like
Yeah.
That's okay.
prom date. Yeah.
We had a good run if that's the case.
Okay, so yeah, we're going to be talking about Disney Lorcana basically the whole episode. So if you hate that, just turn us off now. But we've actually been playing some games. We've been even posting some stuff on the old YouTubes. If you're listening to this on a podcast, go check out YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, know that you can listen to this audio only on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whatever Mike says that we're on. But we've been playing, and so let's just hop right into what do you guys think about actual gameplay? What has surprised you? What is exactly what you expected? Let's just get some general feels now that we've actually played the game.
Yeah, so it's interesting now that we have played the game, that whenever spoilers come out, we are more in tune with what their power level might be, or what we think that use cases for them will be, and different lines and stuff like that. So that's always exciting, so that it's not just out in the dark looking at a card and trying to evaluate it without knowing how to play the game. So I think that's cool, which you'll see probably later in the video when we talk about the newest spoilers from the gala in France. And then we've got Gamma trade show starting tomorrow. It's Sunday for those listening, but you'll probably not hear this till after. And we'll get some more spoilers there, so we're excited for that. Anyway, I've been having a blast playing it. Any game there's many games that I've played, and I've played it once, twice, and then I just stopped playing. This game I have returned to time and time again, not just because I'm making content, but because I've really enjoyed playing. I've only played against Mike, but I've really enjoyed playing it so far. There's a lot of cool interactions with the card abilities. I'm definitely the kind of guy that likes a simple rule set, but once you start actually playing the cards and seeing different strategies that exist within and synergies that exist within the different card abilities that exist in the game, that's my kind of game. What about you, Mike? How are you enjoying it?
I completely agree with you. I really enjoy it so far. That's not super out of the ordinary for me with a new game. I'm usually very gung-ho with any new game. So the real test will be if I get bored in 2 weeks or not. But so far, I don't think that's going to happen. I like Jay said, I agree. I love that the game is simple system, but the actual lines of play are what make it deep and strategic in not a it's not too complicated, I guess. It's hard to see sort of the best line, I guess, at least right now, which is the spot that I like to be in, because I kind of like switching things up every once in a while, just kind of seeing what works. I like kind of poking at the game and the system and just kind of figuring it out and seeing how it goes, rather than trying to math everything out. So this is my favorite time to be into a game, and the most likely time that I'll actually spend like a lot of time with it. So I'm having a lot of fun. How about you guys, David and Jim? I know you guys have played against each other. How'd that go?
I'll start. So we've only played a couple of games, but it's been a lot of fun. I think I really enjoy, even with the limited card pool, how like some combos are just obvious, but I still think for people like new to TCGs, that'll be a very fun thing for them to discover and like learn as they like are looking at their, card list that they have, just by opening up a few packs. So I think that's a great start already. That's just, you can't miss how obvious some of those combos are.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like I said, we only played a couple games. So we have a very limited set of like what we've seen so far, but I really enjoyed it. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Even just like learning the base mechanics and kind of talking through lines of play, even just one game in, was really cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
David?
Same. I think I agree with everything you guys are saying. I love how simple the game is. I mean, if you can't teach a player a new game in like 5 minutes or less, I feel like its ceiling is pretty low. So the fact that you can teach this, but it's simple to teach, but it does feel like it's not immediately obvious when it's correct to drop an ink in the inkwell or whether to hold back, or when to quest, when to challenge. Like it's not, it's not Candyland, basically. So I've enjoyed that part of it. I do think, Mike, I think you said this. I don't remember if you said this while we were recording, or I think you did. But we're basically playing a lot of like limited format, as in like similar to like a draft or sealed format would be right now. It's like you have like these are the cards you have, and so like the decks we're building are obviously like nothing like they'll be a year from now. So it's trying to figure out like, okay, what kind of game is this, and not necessarily what's the best deck or like what's the best combos, because all of that could be nothing, in the next couple months. But what are the core mechanics? And I think the core mechanics are solid. I think listening to other conversations, other people are having similar conversations to the conversation we're having, like that whole interactive piece that we talked about last episode about you can't really interact on my turn necessarily, but you have to respond to everything I did on my turn or anticipate what I'm doing. And some people really hate that. I mean, we've gotten some beautiful comments on YouTube videos of the trolls of the internet land. Which, why? I mean, just never mind. I won't get into that. But yeah, so I like it. I want to know the whole card pool. Is where I'm
for
at
sure.
now.
Yeah, I want to know what it's like to play a quote unquote real deck, or a deck that you can build from the entire card pool. I think, I mean, maybe we can just like chat quickly about the things that we maybe don't like about it. I think all four of us have had conversations about, how right now, at least it feels like when you get to a certain point and then you're sort of top decking the rest of the game, that doesn't feel great. Like it's not as fun. But again, I wonder how much of that comes down to it just being a limited sort of card pool.
Right. I would ask you this, and in response is, would you rather it be like this, where once you get to a certain turn, it's top decking, or versus what Magic is, and the one card you draw on your turn is a land, and then that's the card that you're playing, and
then
you may have some other cards, but yeah, would you rather have it?
No, I like, because in Magic you can definitely get to the point where you're top decking in Magic also, but the difference is in Magic you can top deck a card that does nothing at all for you. In this game, if you draw a card that does nothing at all for you, it was kind of your fault because you put those cards in your deck. Magic, you have to put those cards in your deck. In this game, every card is a resource. So, well, every card.
Right. Yeah, and then I would also in response to people that are negative about the game right now because of the simple system. I've heard a lot of people complain about how simple the system is, and that it's going to rely heavily on the card abilities that exist or that they come out with on cards, and they think that the system isn't built to be able to expand further the different types of card abilities. What I would say about that is, number one, Flesh and Blood is an incredibly simple system. If you watch the or at least like the way the game plays is very simple. If you watch the how to play, it's only like 3 minutes long. It's like you play attack on your turn, and then they get to block with cards from hand, and then that's it. You draw. It's like it's not a difficult system. The like complexity comes from the card abilities in that game, and I could totally see that still being the case in this game. So I would hold reservations on saying that the game is too simple, and wait and see what they do. Because, I mean, Flesh and Blood's first set was really boring, and it was really simple. When I first played the game, I played the first set, and I didn't play it again because I thought it was kind of boring.
I'm in the same
And
boat.
then as soon as the second set came out and they introduced Runeblade and Wizard, which Wizard is the one that you can play on your opponent's turn, it got infinitely more complicated just because of the card abilities that existed. So they could this game has breathing room to bring in more heavy complexity without having a complex system. So that's my 2 cents about it.
Yeah,
but
isn't that the whole point of a card game, where like the rules and the kind of fun stuff happens on the cards and not the rule system itself? Like,
yeah.
I don't know if anybody else has played L5R, but that's an example of a card game. Well, the FFG version, it's a version of a card game that's in the opposite direction, and it is absolute garbage, in my opinion. So, as long as a game doesn't go in that direction, I'm on board.
Okay, I wouldn't say L5R is garbage.
No,
I just think
you liked that game?
Yeah, we played it at Gen Con, remember?
No, I didn't play it. I didn't get a ticket to that event.
No, but you and I sat down and I demoed it for you.
Did we actually play it?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Wow, I'm offended. I'm super offended by this.
I remember hanging out with you,
by
but
the
I don't
end, you were
remember
like,
that.
"Yeah, I don't like this game." Like, it was very classic Mike Rude.
Yeah.
But no, I don't know. That game was interesting to me in a different way, but it was to
like
analysis paralysis. There was a million different things that could happen in it. Like, there were too many decisions where it got like it just hurt my brain. Like, it was like, oh my gosh, like you could genuinely make one decision that has 8 different second decisions, and it hurt me. So I did like it for a little bit, but I do like, the one thing I liked about that is like it was all about clan loyalty. So it's like you like choose a clan, and it's like, this is my, like, I'm a lion player, like this is it, and like people would rarely venture out of that, except maybe the hyper competitive people who are like, I'm gonna do this. But that was very interesting because it created a lot of like inter-game community, like kind of side talk, I guess, like talk after the game. That I think is like a unique thing that not a lot of games have.
But you probably could have invited a lot more people to your clan if the game itself was better.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's what. There's a reason the game isn't being published anymore. They had some really unique ideas with like, oh, the winner, if Dragon Clan wins this big tournament, then it affects the lore, it affects the story, and then the Dragon Clan takes over this thing because that idea I think is fascinating for a community to like rally behind, and like the effects of a tournament affect the story if the story is compelling enough. And so they had a lot of great plans, but the execution was just not good, and the game obviously couldn't hold up for what they're trying to do. Which is part of the problem of the LCG model. When you're only looking for one type of card, if you're only looking for dragon cards, and you have to get a whole set with a bunch of non-dragon cards just for that one copy of one card, it's just, there's built-in problems there. But I don't know how I got off on all that L5R stuff.
I played that game once.
Bad.
I played that game once, and I never played it again. I hated it, but I don't know the system well, so you're gonna have to correct me. If I remember correctly, you randomly put cards from your deck at the back of the line, and then if it gets like as a base or something, and if it gets destroyed, then it's like discarded.
Yeah.
And my best card in my deck, I don't know if it was like there's a leader or something, was one of those, and it was the first one that was destroyed, and I never got to play it. I was like, this is stupid.
Like, I'm done.
I want to be able to play my cool cards.
Yeah, but you're also just trash at card games in general, Jay. So I mean, I don't know, what are we supposed to just play more copies of that card, Jay? Gosh.
I didn't build the deck. I didn't know what I was doing.
I think the point of this conversation, like Legend of the Five Rings and Lorcana, like some of the innate difference is that L5R was like overly complex in unnecessary ways. I think the Star Wars LCGs suffered from this same issue. A game again, I enjoyed it for a season, but it was like, this hurts. But like Lorcana, I can play like game after game after game, and it's like, okay, like I still feel like I have a lot of like decision in this without it being overwhelming, and I'm like, I need to go, I get some ice out of the freezer and pad my head for a little bit. So
I also think anybody who thinks that like the design space is limited because the game is so simple, I think is thinking about it the wrong way. I think it's actually the opposite. I think the design space is way bigger because they can do almost anything around the core game rules. So yeah, if you're worried about it being too simple, honestly, I think like the core, like for it being a first set, we've already seen some like pretty really interesting unique stuff. Abilities. Like I wouldn't be concerned about it not being an interesting game.
What
I would agree.
What would you say is like the more unique abilities that for the first set you think?
I think the
shift mechanic.
Yeah, the shift mechanic alone I think is pretty wild, honestly. Like, and
which we got clarity on, thank goodness.
Yeah, I mean the fact that there were so many like rules questions around it maybe means that it's like a little bit too complex for a core set, but I think the shift mechanic. And I think like I don't know, the card that comes to mind most is Aladdin, which is I think it costs 7, but you can shift onto another Aladdin for 5. It's a 5/5, and it has 1 lore pip, I think. It might have 2. And then when you challenge, I think it is 2. Yeah, you're right. And then when you challenge and banish an opponent's character, you get to basically steal 2 lore from them. They lose 2, you gain 2. And that I mean, it's fairly simple, I guess, ability, but it's definitely more interesting than just, I don't know, not
which
stealing
is interesting
lore from
that they say they lose 2 and you gain 2 instead of saying steal 2.
Right.
So it kind of makes me think that they're not going to implement stealing as like a core mechanic of the game, stealing lore.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, I guess.
But there was a Q&A for the Twitter thing, which we're going to get into a little bit, where someone asked a question. I should have had it ready. Where basically, was there any design in the first set around like using your lore
as a resource?
And they said it was like
it said
cards
like
that have not been revealed yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what does yet mean? Like, is that in this set yet, or next set, or third set, or fourth set yet? But I was like, that is interesting to like be able to think about your lore as a resource, because I mean, they talk about that too. Like in every game, like Magic, Fab, whatever, like your life is a resource to some extent. Where you don't start with in those games, it's like you start with a certain and then you get chipped down. So it's like, well, you can use X amount in order to build to a greater win condition. But I do think, it's stuff like that where like the design space of Lorcana does feel like they did not pigeonhole themselves in such a strong way where it's like, this is how we have to build the cards and do it this way. Like, we haven't even seen cards that can like just give you lore by playing them. And I'm curious. I'm like, okay, will they? Like, is that a thing? I don't know. But I do think it seems like they were very careful in designing this first set to create room for lots of things in the future. But for complexity's sake, it seems to be, so far, we have 60 cards revealed? Like,
not even like 40 or 45 cards.
Is it really?
Yeah,
that's
very
pretty
few.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, it's
less
like
than a quarter of the set.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Another thing talking about like wording on cards. Let it. I noticed this the other day, and I got to thinking about it. I don't know, like if it's true. It's just speculation. But let it go as a card that says, choose one of your opponent's characters and put it into their inkwell exerted, and you're playing that on your turn. So they explicitly say it goes in exerted rather than just saying it goes in ready or it goes in, which doesn't really matter because on their start of their turn, they ready all their stuff. So the ink will be ready. So the only reason they would explicitly say exerted is if there was a way for someone to use ink on an opponent's turn.
Well,
this is just speculation.
That specific card you can use on yourself.
Yeah.
So that could be why as well.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Because you can exert a 5 cost to get another ink in, so you can drop the big thing or whatever.
It could be. Oh, that is interesting, but it could be both. I don't know. Like, I think we'll have to see.
Yeah.
You guys want to dive into the rules questions, rules Q&A?
Yeah,
100%.
Sure.
So on Twitter, if you missed this on Twitter and I think Instagram, although it didn't seem like they were responding there very quickly, and I didn't even look at Facebook, but it seemed like they were basically answering questions. Yeah, there you go. Where designers Ryan Miller and Steve Warner were answering as many questions as possible. My impression of it after kind of like glancing at all their responses was that it was really about like how does this work versus like I don't know, more generic questions about the game. So it felt very rule centric. I don't know if that's because that's what most of the questions were about, but we picked, there were like little pieces that were like, okay, that's helpful to know, or this is helpful to know. But what for you guys, like what were some replies?
I have a whole list of questions, like Q&A, Twitter responses that we can go through.
Perfect.
Before we do that, I think the Q&A was like honestly a little weak. Like there were some important questions that like were answered that people were asking, but I noticed that they were answering like the same question over and over again, which I think is probably not the best move, just because like, you know, you can go back and search for the answer to any of those questions. You know that all the content creators that are sort of out there are going to sort of give the TLDR to the rest of the community. So I would have rather them given more interesting answers to other questions that they were asked, like about design or other things like that, or even just answer some of the rules questions that they didn't answer. So I was a little surprised by that.
Yeah, I'll say this too, Mike. I think so far it feels like everything that Ravensburger has done around Lorcana has been extremely calculated and very planned. And like, even if you disagree with the plan, it seems like it was executed really well. And this is the first time I felt like oh, like they kind of like, did they have a plan? Was this a last minute thing? Like it seemed,
I kind of feel like it was last minute.
Yeah.
I feel like they were forced to drop the rules earlier than they were planning because of what happened with the magazine. So this may have been just a quick, like, all right, we need to do a rules video because all these chumps playing on TTS making videos don't know how nothing works.
So it's our fault.
Go support your local game store.
All right. So the first question that I pulled out, I like screenshotted a few questions and the ones that I thought were interesting to talk about.
Love it.
We're gonna skip shift, right?
This is where
everyone knows how shift works.
This is what this is where Mike makes us look professional, guys.
Yeah, exactly.
But we all contributed, right?
Yeah, exactly.
In spirit.
All right. So at Illum Lorcana asks, is there a way to recover a card after it was put in the inkwell? And we have the answer currently no.
Currently.
Yeah, which just the answer currently. It could have just said no. I like, currently maybe it's just keeping them open for later and they haven't actually designed something that does this, but I think this is really interesting design space for them to explore. The one thing that maybe makes this not as viable is, we'll talk about it later, but you can't see the cards that are in your own inkwell. But maybe there's like a shuffle all the cards in your inkwell together and draw one or something like that. So some mechanic similar to that. I don't know.
That's interesting.
Yeah, lots of space there.
Yeah, lots of cool design space that they could tap into there. Anybody want to say anything else about this? Any interesting thoughts, or should we
I
move on to the
think
next
that
one?
if they do make a mechanic where you can get ink cards back, it's only good for the game because it gets to top deck. Currently gets to top decking so quickly that it's just like another card draw once you get to that phase. And like it's planning ahead too, right? So like if turn 2 you put a card down there that on turn 8 is going to be super good for you, then it's kind of interesting, I guess.
Yeah, it adds another decision point to which card you put in your inkwell. That's the thing that I like about the concept.
Is this also like pseudo saying that there's no way to destroy your opponent's ink, like in their inkwell?
I don't know. Maybe is there a way to recover a card after it was put in the inkwell? Currently, no.
Because if you were to destroy one of those cards and then get that back out of your discard pile, to me that would be the same thing as recovering it. So is that also kind of saying you can't destroy your opponent's inkwell once they play something currently?
Interesting. I mean, I would be shocked if they included cards that did that, because it feels so bad. Like resource denial, it's like such a toxic mechanic. And for the audience that they're targeting, like that sounds like a really good way to piss people off.
And any kind of discarding
sounds like a real Java Unkar thing to do.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I did not play that specific deck, but I did play very mean decks in Star Wars Destiny.
Wait, no, you were the first one. You were the first one I ever played that was running Java Unkar in Star Wars Destiny.
I don't think I played. I played Unkar, but I don't think I played Java.
You definitely were playing Java. You were the first one I played, Mike.
I mean, it's probably true.
Can I just, as an aside, I love that a lot of our Star Wars Destiny friends are hopping on with Unplayable.
Yes, we love you guys.
So I'm like vowing to make a Star Wars Destiny reference in every podcast we ever make, just for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's easy to do because I think a lot of unique mechanics came from that game. So.
Hey, T-minus 9 days until my Star Wars Destiny return with my goodbye party here.
I'm so jealous.
I'm so pumped. Jim's gonna be there.
I'm flying in.
I can't wait to destroy you, Destiny.
This is Destiny Worlds.
Bring me in on an iPad next to you, and I'll just tell you what dice to roll for me.
Roll threes, baby.
All right, next question from Nurgle Probe. Once a card is put in your inkwell face down, is it hidden information for the rest of the game? Or can the owner / both players look at what's face down? How public is the information? And the answer is neither player can look at them. They are not public information. Furthermore, if an ability like One Jump Ahead puts the top card of your deck face down into your inkwell, you don't get to see what that card was.
Ooh.
So super interesting. I want to hear what you guys think about this concept.
I hope they're not tied. I hope this isn't written in stone. I hope they're not tied to the idea that this is how it should work, because then there's less design space.
Yeah, less design space, and I think more memory tax. Like, I really don't want to have to remember what my opponent showed me that they put in inkwell every game. Like that's the part of these kinds of games that I'm the worst at. I know that it's like a skill cap thing, and eventually I'll probably figure it out. But it's similar to me. Obviously on a way like simpler scale as like pitch stacking in Fab, and I hate that. Like I don't want to have to think about it. I want to just play my cards and not think ahead 30 turns and just enjoy myself.
Inversely, it could get really annoying if every 10 minutes or like 10 seconds your opponent's like, show me all your inkwell cards.
For sure. That's probably why they
just leave them face up in there.
Yeah.
I will say, like, I kind of like that you don't even see your own card when you put it like from the top face down. Like you're playing the game and you're banking on like seeing a certain card show up off the top of your deck, and the whole time it was in your inkwell, and at the end of the game you're just like, oh damn. Obviously frustrating, but it sounds like kind of a funny moment.
That's for all. We've had a lot of new people who are jumping into TTS for the first time and are like. A lot of people have been joining our Discord, so little self promo there, like hop into our Discord. But a lot of people jumping into TTS for the first time, trying to figure out how we're playing, what we're playing. And for all you TTS newbies, there's a button called Flip Table, and so if you have that moment where you don't know and that card's sitting there and it happens at the end of the game, that's when you hit flip table.
Exactly.
And then you just leave the server.
You'll instantly win the game.
Yeah.
I know that button oh too well. Oh, Chris.
Every Friday night dice.
Yeah.
That's good.
Oh man. All right. So I'll move on to the next Q&A.
Yeah, good idea.
So we've got Antonio Red _MK asks, can 2 lanterns stack to reduce the cost more? I think we all agree that the answer was yes already for that. But the second part of this question is much more interesting. And also, do they work for shifting? And the answer is yes, they can.
What a terrible answer.
Yeah, and they did this in multiple questions where they didn't answer.
Yeah. But I think it does work for shifting, right? Like,
yes, I think there is
crazy.
Another tweet where they do mention.
Yeah, where they clarify it. Yeah. But like, we both did not think that was the way it worked. I would not have expected that to be the way that it works.
I said that based on the wording that it should work that way, but I also said it probably doesn't, just based on like how other games operate. But I totally understand why, because it says the next card you play costs this much, and the shift mechanic says play this for this much less. So
yeah,
it's like I see why it works.
So if you play like Aladdin, Green Aladdin turn 2, and you have one. Well, okay, I guess you can't do it with Aladdin. But imagine that there's another, yellow. I guess Stitch. We'll use Stitch as an example. Like, you can play Stitch, I think, as early as turn 4.
Yes.
Either turn 4 or turn 5. Like, that's obviously a lot better.
You can, technically, like, if you play Stitch turn 1, because he's a 1 cost, and then the other Stitch is 6,
Lantern turn
right?
3.
Right.
Then turn 4, you can play Stitch plus a 1-drop.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's kind of nuts. Like, you can play Stitch on turn 4 and get value out of his ability immediately. Like, I don't know. I think Lantern's cracked.
I think it's really hard to evaluate cards in this game so far. I think so. Like, I compared it to It Binds All Things when we were playing it the other day in Star Wars Destiny, and I think Binds is probably, because of the way the resource mechanic works in Destiny, Binds was better because you got to carry resources over from turn to turn. So
wait, is this the time? Is this the moment when Mike graphically inserts It Binds All Things into the video?
I sure can.
Yeah.
Yes. I love when Mike makes us look professional.
I'm going to write that time code down.
Lantern is definitely good, but one, you can't ink it. Which is a big drawback in my opinion. And 2, like, you don't always have the optimal resource curve to make use out of it.
Yeah.
It's a weird card.
The fact that you are drawing 1 card per turn instead of redrawing your whole hand does change the math a little bit on it.
And it's a card, like, every card in Lorcana, because of drawing 1 card per turn, you have to also include the cost of having that card in your deck whenever you evaluate a card. And it's not netting you a card, it's netting you resources. And so far, resources haven't been an issue. Card draw has been an issue.
I'm curious what you guys think about this 1 card. So I've seen people talk about it. I intuitively think it's a terrible card, but I could be wrong. And it's the
frying pan.
No, well, okay, that card looks terrible. But also the 3-cost card with Maui on it. I think it's called Just in Time, right?
Yep.
Costs 3, and it says play a card from your hand that costs 5 or less for free.
No, not card, a character.
Character, sorry. It sounds bad, right? Like, you're giving up 2 cards to play one of those cards early by like 2 turns at best. Like, is the tempo worth it? Maybe. I don't know. Like, I've never felt compelled to put it into a deck. I kind of want to try it just to see if I'm right or wrong. I could definitely be wrong. What do you guys think?
I think it's bad, in my opinion. Because if it gave them haste or something, what's it called in this game?
Rush.
Rush. Then maybe it's it would be decent if you got to play it and use it that turn to challenge. I mean, even if it was just rush and not able to quest, but able to challenge with it, I think that card would be a lot better. But as it stands, I feel like it's kind of bad.
I think it depends what tempo means in this game as far as like pushing your own agenda. So if it feels like getting that, high cost unit out and you're able to keep it out for multiple turns, you may push so far ahead with that one move that it could work.
Yeah.
Just from what I've seen with how tough it is to kind of just do direct damage, I could see that actually being a good move, but I think more often than not, kind of like you guys are saying, 2 cards for 1 doesn't feel good. So I think it's kind of to be determined, and I hate always just like defaulting to that. But at least from the 2 games that David and I played, it felt like if you got the lead, it was really hard to kind of overtake that. And so this seems like a card that could do that if you had
That's
lots of 4 or 5 costs. So, but
it also doesn't seem like it works with shift based on wording. So
what's the wording? I'm sure we'll put it up on the screen, but we should also...
You may play a character with cost 5 or less for free, and then shift says may pay 5 to play this on top of one of your characters.
I think they did clarify it, but the shift has to, like, you can only do it on a card that costs 5 or less. So like Aurora, like the blue Aurora, you could do it with.
Which seems like
it's already
just
costing
terrible
3,
value.
so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah. All right, I'm going to move on to the next Q&A question.
Let's do it.
We've got Infinite Manny asking, for organized play, will points for teaching someone or bringing a friend be able to be redeemed multiple times, or is it just the first time? And Disney Lorcana says, you only get points the first time you bring a specific person in. If you bring in more new people, you get the points. The same goes for teaching new players. I only bring this up because I think that this is an awesome way for them to sort of award people for doing stuff. Like this, in my opinion, is like a growth hack, basically. Like, it's the same thing as like, refer a friend and get free whatever. Like, except you're playing games and it's more fun. So it's rewarding players for doing the thing that you kind of need in order to form a community around a game like this. So I'm happy that these are the types of things that this game is rewarding players for doing, rather than just winning or being good at the game. Like, who cares? Like, bring more people into the community, bring your friends, teach people how to play the game, be awesome. Like that's what it should be about.
Yep.
I love this. So when I lived in Atlanta, I was playing Flesh and Blood with my local game store that I had close by. There was a guy that ran a league. It's not really not a competitive league, but a very casual league, which was awesome. And they, at the end, so you got points during the month, and at the end of the month, whoever had the most points got the playmat to use for the full next month, and you got to sign the playmat and all this kind of stuff. And the way they determined points is, you got some points for winning or whatever, but you also got points for every person that you brought, new person you brought in to come play. You could bring in decks, you can build decks for new players, and if you brought those in, so that when new players came, you could just give them a deck. They gave you points for that. So they're basically taking that same principle and applying it, and I think it works really well. I think it's cool.
Okay, that just sparked something in my memory. Speaking of Star Wars Destiny, one of my favorite Destiny memories was we did an escalation league to reward people for showing up. And it was the best thing we ever did for our local community here, and had the most conversation happening. And escalation league, basically how we did it was hey, you had your Rivals draft kit. It was some pre-made cards. You started with, I can't remember, I think it was 3 or 4 booster packs that you could add to this deck. And then every week that you showed up, you were eligible to buy 2 or 3 more booster packs, I can't remember, and add those cards to your deck. And then you got points for playing a game, you got points for winning a game. And number one, it just got people showing up, because the more you showed up, the more you could optimize that deck that you've been building. But two, it also brought revenue into the store, because the store's got to pay its bills too, and it wants it needs to be incentivized for people showing up. And so I literally just sat here and I'd had this epiphany of like Lorcana is built for this kind of like escalation league as like a casual way of saying like, hey, maybe you start with a starter deck and week 1 you're eligible to get 3 booster packs, and assuming product is available, which might not be the case honestly with allocation, but to be able to say like, hey, you can buy 3 packs and then like add them to your starter deck and see and then come back next week and just it just like I'm like, oh gosh, this is so obvious to me. Like this is such an easy way to like get people showing up to your store and playing this game that gets me really excited.
Absolutely, yeah. I think if you're out there and you want to grow your local community, that's a good way to do it. I'm definitely going to try that here.
Escalation leagues. Speaking of, I texted you guys this, but I'm going to share it here. But I learned that like so I'm moving to like Chicago suburbs for those out in the world. So if you're in that area and you want to play Lorcana, hit me up. But apparently there's a store there, MinMax Games, who basically said, hey, if Ravensburger doesn't set up like competitive OP, we're going to do it. And it's like 30 minutes from where I'm going to live. And I'm super excited about it. So I'm just dropping that out there.
Nice.
Yeah.
You can crush some 10-year-olds' dreams. All right. Moving on to the next question. I don't remember. Sorry, I didn't pull the actual question here, but
it's about
about shift. Yeah. Jay, you want to talk about this one?
Sure. So when a stack of characters leaves play, the entire stack goes to the same place. So if the character is banished, the entire stack goes to the discard pile. If the character is returned to its player's hand, the entire stack goes to that player's hand. If it goes to the inkwell, the entire stack goes to the inkwell. It doesn't mention it here, but it's the same process. So if you do let it go on a shifted character, they would gain 2 ink exerted instead of just
I think that
1.
makes Let It Go a lot worse.
Yeah, it does.
Probably. So this is, it makes sense. I understand why they do it. It's interesting that they say the stack, because what if they come out with like a 15 cost character that can only be shifted onto second evolution of a character.
We're officially Pokemon.
Yeah,
decreased by like 7 or something like that. It's but so like the chances of playing it are super low unless you've already shifted once and then can shift it on top. So we'll see if they get there. I think that would be kind of a cool mechanic, but also like probably super hard to pull off.
I actually love this. I think this solves a problem that Keyforge has where, well, one, they've solved a couple problems. One is that like every creature in Keyforge reaps for 1. It's like questing for like, but everybody quests and everybody quests for 1. There's no like, oh, this thing is bigger and it quests for multiple. Like everybody reaps for 1. Is that one like?
Except for there's like a couple that are like reap, gain, and amber. So
yeah, they're like special abilities, but like natively to their card, they only reap for 1. So like there's obviously like questing, different characters can quest for more. But the other thing too is like if you go through the effort of playing a shifted character, like you built your deck around this thing, you paid more resources to like build this thing. Like if you got let it go'd. What's the? I don't know what the
Dragon Fire.
If you were let it
go.
If you were let go.
Went. If you were let it went. But it's like, oh well, okay, yes, it kind of sucks, but it also is like rewards you for working hard to try to pull off this like shift mechanic, which I think is unique because otherwise it's like, oh, I went through all this effort to shift and then like, oh, I get one thing out of it versus like, oh, you want to let it go on my shifted character? Like, thanks, okay. Like that sucks, but also works in my favor.
I think that the shift mechanic is impeccably better because that you like if you play the character the turn before that when you play it, it's immediately usable.
Yeah, it's like the one way to surprise your opponent in the game.
Yeah,
and that in and of itself is a very powerful thing. I think
Aladdin alone is going to be worth it.
Yeah, it's going to crush some dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it already has.
Yep. Mine many times.
They crushed Jafar's dreams, He just wanted to be in charge, and Aladdin just wouldn't let him.
Spoiler, come on.
Oh, my God.
Oh, come on.
More.
All right. One of the. Okay, we got 3 more remaining. So this one is asked by School is Cool. Can lore/victory points be taken away or used as a resource? And the answer is Aladdin, Heroic Outlaw, does not currently make opponents lose lore. Oh, sorry, does currently. I read that and I was like, that doesn't make sense. Does currently make opponents lose lore. Used as a resource has not been seen yet. And we did talk about this a little bit earlier in the podcast, but just an exciting little little nugget of hope.
But what does yet mean? This is like the new spring. What does spring mean? Now it's what does yet mean? Okay.
I think it means not now, but maybe at some point in the future.
But maybe or for sure, Mike.
I guess we'll never know. Okay. Next question was a question about mulliganing in the setup. This one I just flagged because I was playing this wrong.
Typo in the rulebook.
Yeah, typo in the rulebook. We had been playing this wrong, Jay and I. But you do, in fact, determine who's going first and then do the mulligan. So we will play like that moving forward. And then I think the last question.
Jim will care very deeply about that.
I will, every time.
Okay, very last question by 12 J Sin. What triggers happen in what order? Imagine playing a magical broom which has an on-play trigger in a field with Rockstar Stitch, who has the when a ... card displayed. And the answer is you choose the order in which to resolve your triggered abilities that trigger off of the same event. So I just called this out because I like this in games where you as the player and the owner of the triggers gets to choose. It lets you do things that are more in your favor, make you feel smart by ordering your stuff in the right way. So I do like this. I asked a follow-up question to this, which was what happens when your broom attacks and defeats the Cheshire Cat, and the Cheshire Cat would banish it, but it also would go in your hand because you don't control the Cheshire Cat trigger, but you do control the broom trigger. Like, which happens first? They didn't answer me because I asked the question after they had closed the Q&A. But if anybody from Ravensburger wants to answer that question, please do. I'm just very curious. But
do you think Ravensburger listens to this? I'm curious.
Guaranteed they don't.
Absolutely not.
No. But if anybody listening knows anybody at Ravensburger, find this out for us.
I'm curious at what level of like takesy backsies do you have to go with this? Of like, if you say, "Oh, I'm going to do this first," but then you think about it for a second, and then actually I want to do this, then this. Like, at what point have you committed? I think is going to be a really tough question if this game ever does take like a competitive approach.
Yeah. Well, aren't there other games like this where there are multiple triggers that happen at a time and you choose the order? Like, doesn't Keyforge do that?
Yeah. Keyforge is active player gets to choose if they all trigger at the same time. The active player chooses the order,
even for your opponent.
Yep.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Honestly, maybe they'll do that in this game, and that's how Cheshire Cat will work.
It makes it really clean, honestly.
Yeah.
Well, I think the wording on Cheshire, I think it's less of what happens when, and if the broom gets to come back, because I don't know.
I'm going to time code this one too, and I'll pop those ones on the screen, and we can figure it out.
Okay. Let me pull up Lorcana and look at the cards. But you can go to the next thing.
Okay. Next we got spoilers. So I don't know if you guys want to talk about those. Some of them are interesting. Some of them are not that interesting. We can go through like real quick.
Whoa, hot take, Mike. Come on now.
You want to start us off here, David?
Sure. I'm watching your screen as you're.
Oh, is it delayed?
Yeah, no, but it's fine now. All right, okay. So we've got our third blue sapphire aurora. Which, by the way, how the heck are we going to tell these apart? Are we going to have to say forecast aurora, or am I supposed to remember the subtext of Briar Rose?
You're definitely supposed to remember that. I'm not going to, but you're supposed to.
Okay, so she is a forecast. I think this is common. Forecast with flourish, 2 strength, 5 willpower, storyborn hero, princess. We got some princess energy for Moana.
Oh yeah.
Ability is Disturbing Beauty. When you play this character, chosen character gets -2 strength for the rest of the turn, and she's got 1 lore pip when she quests. What do you think, guys?
I'm just reading disturbing beauty.
Yeah, it was a translation, right? So that's probably not actually what
Yeah,
Okay.
this is French. It was translated from French, so
Oui. Okay, I got you.
that is. Yeah. The flavor text there is pretty spicy, though. I don't know if you guys can read that, but
Unfortunately, I'm not fluent in French.
I can count in French. I cannot speak French.
I don't.
So, yeah, go ahead, Jim. You got
No,
it.
I don't know if I do like this one. I feel like 4 cost for 1 potential lore every time you quest is tough, and because this effect only works
And her
the
2
turn it's
cost
played.
has 2 pips.
yeah, she's
that?
bad at getting lore. I don't know.
Yeah.
I've learned in card games that almost every time a creature, character, unit, whatever has an when this enters play, something happens ability.
Mm-hmm.
Like you should at least consider it.
Yeah.
In this case, I don't know. The stat line's not horrible.
No, it'll stay out for a while, but even so, you're going to have to already have a board,
Yep.
and they're going to have exerted characters, and your characters that you have are going to want to fight typically to stay alive. It just feels like a lot of things for that when you play this character setup.
You probably play it in a very
things.
specific deck, right? Like that
Sure.
wants all those things to line up. Or maybe, yeah, it's probably not
So
that
I'm
strong.
looking-
It's a common, right? So it probably isn't meant to be that crazy.
And 4 cost really isn't
Right.
too bad, at least from the games that I've seen. Like it's not that difficult to get to 4 lore.
Mm-hmm.
It's
So
the
I'm
6
looking at the other 4 cost characters that we have revealed currently, right? So we have Captain Hook, who is also has a when played ability, and he's a 3/4. So the sum of the stats is the same as 7, and he also only has 1 lore pip,
Mm-hmm.
and he's a 4 cost, and he can't be put into ink.
Yeah, but he's nuts because he brings one of your best cards back from your discard
He does
pile.
bring back a really good card. But her playability is similar to his, where it's also -2. So like value wise, it's kind of similar. And then we also have Hades, who is another one that is a playability. When you play him, you get to return a card to your hand, but his stats are way worse. He's a 3/2, which is Donald Duck, 2-coster, and he only has 1 lore pip.
And
But
you
he's
can't
still
put him
really
into your
good.
Inkwell. Yeah, but he's also nuts.
You can't put him in your ink, but he does net you a card, which feels like good value in this game.
Yeah, it feels really good.
And then we got a couple other ones. Scar is a 4 cost, that's 5/3, and he's above rate, but with 8 some of the stats, but he has no ability at all.
And only 1 lore pip.
And only 1 lore.
Oh, wow.
But,
okay.
But then we have Maleficent, that's a 4 cost. She has 2 lore pips, and she's a 3/4, which is also a sum of 7, but no playability, and can be put in ink.
So I'm going to suggest that because they made Moana a starter deck character, and the whole princess mechanic of like Moana says, whenever this character quests, you may ready your other princess characters. They can't quest for the rest of this turn. That maybe they scaled back on some of the power level of like the princess, which I'm saying sentences I never thought I'd say. We're talking about gaming. Like, what am I even saying? But
the princess tribe over here.
Yeah, I'm like, what in the world? But I just wonder if they maybe scaled back a little bit to make sure that it wasn't, abnormally broken. But it's just a theory.
I think Aurora is not bad. Having 5 health is huge. I think that's a lot. There's not a lot of characters that have 5
It's called
attack.
willpower, Jay. Willpower.
True. And her ability is pretty flexible. I the one time I've seen that one card played that control your temper, which is 1 cost, decrease a character by 2, their strength by 2. Worked pretty good because it kept a character alive. So I think she's fine.
if they print any Sapphire card that like you can banish a character with like strength less than, then this card becomes amazing.
True.
So I just think it depends
Yeah.
like what route they kind of go with that.
That's interesting.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yep. Definitely.
I mean,
That's a good
obviously, yeah. Well, never mind. Go ahead.
All right. I'm going to move on to the next one.
Yep.
All right. We've got Jasmine Disguised. This is one of the not as interesting ones in my opinion because it's just a vanilla 3 with 2 lore pips, and we've seen at least 2 of those already.
Yep.
In different colors.
In Sapphire.
Yeah. The
But
more
she
interesting
is
about this one is that she is a princess.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm going to say. Yep.
Yep. So
More
Even in
princess
disguise.
stuff. Yeah.
I think this stat line right here is really good.
Yeah.
Like
I agree.
every color is going to have this exact card as a different flavor, but
yeah.
Right.
And it's probably a staple for like the first little bit because it's just really it seems really efficient.
Think about a yellow, blue, or a amber sapphire deck where Moana is able to quest and then ready your other princesses. If you played Aurora, even just playing Aurora, you can make a chosen character on the other side get -2. So then Jasmine could have quested for 2, but now she's got to basically challenge. But she's only has 3 health. That -2 is going to help her survive, like for another turn, to be able to hit for 3, but -2 in return. So again, my princess theory is just it is.
It could so essentially Aurora's playability could provide value to you twice in one turn. Right. Say it's a big guy that's like a 5/5, and you have 2 3/3s out, and you're able to challenge with both of them. They both stay alive, and you take out that 5/5 person. So you got value out of it twice. So yeah, I think it's interesting.
Yep.
It would have to be a 4/5, but I agree.
4/5, yeah. Whatever it is. That's what I meant.
Yeah. It's all good. Next one is Goons.
Goons.
I like a good solid generic, you know?
Yeah.
Goons is a 1-cost steal character, a storyborn ally, 2 willpower, 2 strength, 2 willpower, and no text, but has 1 lore pip, and it is a common.
Yep.
I wonder what kind of cool stuff we're going to see with allies, because we've seen a lot of allies, but synergy.
Yeah. But other allies are like LeFou, and we have Pascal.
Hey.
We had Flounder.
There's a lot.
Kristoff. Yeah. I am curious how that there's definitely some design space that we talked about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed.
Yeah, and it's good that they're putting this in now. Like Star Wars Destiny did this post first 3 sets. They started doing a lot more of these traits to be able to trigger things, and they actually went back and added a bunch to old characters, which was very weird. So it's good they're thinking ahead.
Yeah,
forward thinking.
All right, we got 3 of these left, so let's speed run them. We've got Prince Eric, who is my wife's favorite Disney prince. It's also a 2-cost 1/3 with a flourish with Challenger 2. While it's challenging a character, this character gets +2 strength and one lore pip.
Yep.
So kind of similar to Captain Hook. I think slightly less efficient, maybe, but maybe
can't wait for that Prince synergy to come into play.
Yeah, yeah. We've seen Princess synergy. Where's the Prince deck? Come on, guys.
I think I really like 2-costers in this game so far because we've tried this 1-coster deck that you get out a bunch of 1-costers and do stuff, but I think that you can actually have the same efficiency of playing equal amount of characters with 2 costs and actually have higher value because they're just straight up better than the 1 cost. So I think there can be decks that run a lot of 2 costs and succeed. And this is a card that will help that play play archetype, because you can take out four willpower characters now.
I'm trying to think if I would rather just be a 2-cost 2/3. I don't know.
They have
just
those, so
you're right.
maybe.
Like Donald Duck.
Yeah.
The reason
Or he's a 3/2.
no, he's a 2/3.
No, he's a
He is a 2/3.
Yeah, he's a 2/3.
Yeah.
Like this can trade with Donald Duck, and then Donald dies and you stay alive. So that's the benefit of playing
True.
this card, I guess.
Stealing
Donald
my
Duck
thunder.
is my least favorite card because it always wrecks my game plans.
Yeah.
So it's such a simple
Spoiler
little duck,
alert,
but
watch on YouTube.
he's no joke. I don't know. I think it's interesting.
Yeah, I guess it's like, at what point are you wanting your card to trade for 2 smaller cards? Because this one can do like 1.5.
Right.
Like the one you attack, it can kill, but then when it gets hit back, it's not going to kill what challenged it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, maybe by this time in the game, like, you have this out, your opponent has 2 1-costs out. One of them has 1 willpower, the other one doesn't. You banish the thing that doesn't have 1 willpower, then they are forced to trade if they want to. Like, there's some interesting plays there for sure. But I think we've said enough about this card.
Next up, Smash. 3 costs with a flourish. Steal, event, or action card. Deal 3 damage to chosen character. Simple. 3 costs, 3 damage.
A lot of debate over this card.
Yeah, I initially didn't like
a lot
it.
of comparisons to Fire the Cannons.
Fire the Cannons is so good.
Let's read Fire the Cannons because I think that's an important comparison.
So 1 cost, steal card.
No flourish.
No flourish, and it's deal 2 damage to a chosen character. Right?
Yep. So the rate is obviously way better. It's like a 2-for-1 instead of a 1-for-1. But no flourish.
Also, it has Captain Hook to
return it. Yep.
But
direct damage is just so good. Like, maybe direct damage is just so good enough. You play this even though it's like way less efficient.
They did allude in the Twitter Q&A that there were more cards coming that can deal with big board. Like, I remember seeing a question about that. Like, how is there recover mechanics for? It's like, oh gosh, their board's just ahead. I can't do anything. It's like, yes, that's coming. I wonder if this is part of that. I also am very curious about like don't ask me to do the math. I would ask Jim to do the math. But if Jim would do the math about what the cost of a flourish card is versus a non-flourish card,
that'd be a fun project.
and also incorporating how much damage is worth on a resource curve.
You should do it. Yeah. You should make a video about it so I can watch it and not have to do it myself.
Yeah, listen to Mike.
Good.
So I talked to Mike about this too. It's not only the things that you mentioned that go into evaluation, but it's also action efficiency. So compare this to playing a 3 cost that's a 3/3.
Mm-hmm.
You can't immediately use to challenge one of their characters. You could play this that you immediately get to use to challenge, to defeat or banish one of their characters. So say you wanted to trade with one of their 3/3s. It's slower to play the 3 cost character that's 3/3 to trade with than it is to just be able to play this and vanish immediately. So I think there's an action efficiency that also exists when you're evaluating these cards.
That's fair.
Have we seen any cards with Rush come out yet? I know we've talked about that.
Just the Pocket Watch?
Just the Pocket Watch so far.
Okay, got it. Yeah, because that's where, as far as playing the action, it's basically playing a 3/1 character that you're just going to throw into a unit. Mm-hmm. But it obviously doesn't have to be exerted. So, like, that's apparently part of the resource evaluation there. So
it's interesting because, like, if that was a card that existed, like a 3/1 Rush, like, that might actually be better than this because that could get around a ward and this couldn't. Mm-hmm. The flip side is that this could get rid of something that is ready and the other one couldn't. So, I mean, there's definitely design space and room for them to print both of those cards, and each of them could have their own use case. So I think that is kind of cool.
Yeah. Anytime I see an action card too, I also think of Lady Tremaine, whose ability is do it again. When you play this character, you may return an action card from your discard pile to your hand.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I also think like if you're playing Lady Tremaine or Lady Tremaine at 6, like you're getting into like some of those bigger characters that like Fire the Cannons is not going to take care of. Where you might play Lady Tremaine and you might not need a smash at the time, but maybe that's a good card to have in hand, ready for like a response if it's like a green an emerald steel deck.
And that's where I'm intrigued to see like what is the appropriate like ink size or whatever as far as like what's in your inkwell, because a deck like that would make sense for you get to 6 and then you stop putting things in there because you can do maybe this card twice or you play that. So I think that's where it's going to be interesting for the math nerds at least to try to figure out that whole system of like, okay, you go to this point and then your deck is running exactly as it wants to. So yeah, it seems like there's enough recursion that it may not be great rate, but you don't care at a certain point.
I actually think that's going to be one of the bigger learning curves of this game is figuring out like for each deck when you stop inking cards. When you say like, no, I'm actually hurting myself by putting this in the ink. And I might have 5 ink, but like is 4 actually your like comfortable level where like if I'm dropping like a 3 to 4 cost thing a turn, I'm okay. Like I'm feeling okay about this versus having 5 and having this awkward cost. This is that difficult to master concept, I think, where I think that's where I'm like, oh, okay, this game could go deep.
Yeah, there's a lot of considerations behind that question too, because it's like what's your game plan? What's your win condition? Like, do you need the extra ink to be able to hopefully top deck the card that gets you to win the game? Otherwise, you just lose. Like, do you play your outs? Do you play with the stuff that you got because you might not draw into it? Like, there's a lot of nuance there in the strategy.
Yeah.
So it keeps it fun. All right, last card.
The Beast.
Dibs. Beast.
No, that's my favorite movie. Get out of here.
All right, Jim, you can do it.
Thanks. Oh wait, no, you can read it. I just want to play it.
Kill the Beast.
Okay.
Kill the Beast.
Yeah, I was gonna say that my son's favorite song is "Kill the Beast." Favorite Disney song is, so I feel like I need to hit this.
Oh
Okay.
my god.
We've got a 5 cost with flourish steel character, the Beast, quote unquote, angry and bitter. 4 strength, 4 willpower, storyborn, hero, print, 2 lore pips. Has an ability called Destruction. When you play this character, you may banish chosen item card. We've got item destruction, y'all.
We do. And
Hey.
so Belle and Maurice are item characters. So this is kind of like thematic within its own movie or whatever.
Yeah. Even
that.
the art, he's like destroying stuff in the art, which is hilarious.
What do you think of this card? Playabilities are always sweet. He does have 2 lore.
I love this. I love this.
Really good.
I think this is very good. I think the cost is right. 2 lore pips in steel feels good. And I may be transferring my like Keyforge brain into Lorcana right now, but like sometimes those items / artifacts and Keyforge can get out of hand, and you need a way to deal with them. We haven't seen any items that feel like absolutely overpowered, like, oh gosh, this would like crush me, but we've only seen 20% of the card pool. So this feels a little bit like a little bit of a silver bullet for those decks that are going to come out where it's like, oh, I played this one item card and then you're screwed and you have nothing to do, where it's like, okay, well then steel takes over the meta for a bit. The Beast gets played a lot, takes out those items, whatever those items are. And I'm trying to think of like a good Disney item. The carpet. We'll do the carpet in Aladdin. Yeah,
that's gonna be an ally for sure.
Okay.
The lamp will probably be an item, right?
The lamp is crazy because you get 3 wishes, and one of the wishes is you win the game, and you need the Beast to stop the lamp from winning the game.
I dig it. I mean, I think this game, the way that it's designed and the way that the resource system works, makes it like really cheap in terms of opportunity costs to run tech cards in your like main deck, because if you don't need it, you can just put it in as a resource. You can just ink it. And this card's like not bad on its own either. So if there's a deck out there that is running your meta and it's playing a bunch of items, put this in your deck.
Looking at the whenever a character comes out, I always compare it to the other characters of that cost, and his stats are in line with all the other characters. It seems like so far. There's a couple that are 1 point less, and there's a couple that's 1 point more in terms of sum of willpower and strength. But you also compare him to the characters and their abilities. So like you have Moana, who is kind of a combo-y character with her ability, and then she also has 3 lore pips, which is a lot. You compare it with Mulan, who is also a combo-y character, but she only has 1 lore pip, but she seems kind of good. And then you have like the other big one would be Goofy, who has evasive, and presumably 3 lore pips, and evasive seems really good. So I don't think he's I think he's about average for that cost, to be honest. And like you said, he gets better the more that items are relevant in what would be the meta of the game.
Yeah, it definitely feels like the 5 cost is kind of where you're hitting that like, oh, these are powerful kind of modes. Like even with the 4 cost, it was like, okay, that does some cool things that can kind of battle the early game. But 5 cost is like, oh, now we're playing. And this thing's doing some work on its own.
This is just on the comment too.
Yeah,
true.
Yeah,
true.
Score. Can't wait to open 25 of them.
I actually thought, because he's beast, I figured he would be like a huge stat line.
Yeah.
I guess.
Well, maybe there'll be a big one. Maybe they'll have shift. It would be like a 10 cost like shift monster.
Oh wow!
Destroy all of your opponent's characters.
There it is. Yep. Board wipe.
Love that.
That's good. All right. Any final thoughts on Lorcana stuff? This is a long episode.
Every time I see new cards, I want to go just build more decks.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
That's a good sign.
I compared it to building decks in Destiny. It just felt good to build decks in Destiny. You choose Destiny, you would choose a couple colors usually. Sometimes you could play all 3, but not most of the time. You just look at those 2 colors and you get whatever cards you want out of those 2 colors. Whereas I compare a lot of stuff to Flesh and Blood because I play it a lot, but I don't really like building decks in Flesh and Blood most of the time. It's not as satisfying, along with the fact that it's so siloed out that it's like you choose a hero and that hero's like you can easily just net deck for that hero because all of them are so extremely similar. Whereas you play this, you choose 2 colors and it's like wide open options.
Yeah.
Even without obviously we don't have a lot of cards spoiled, but it feels like that's going to be the case the way Destiny was.
Yep. I agree with that a lot. It seems to be extrapolating out a lot of different ways to do this. Even with 40 cards, it's like, oh, you can actually build this very differently with 40 cards. So imagine 200 cards, yeah. And then add another set 3 months later with 200 more cards, and it just gets kind of wild. So.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I think we should probably wrap up this episode. I'm gonna do since this is not just a Lorcana podcast, I'm gonna say there's great news on the Keyforge front that we're gonna get our Game Found packages at the end of May. So if you like the idea of racing in Lorcana, come talk to me about Keyforge because it's about to get wild, y'all. So come play some Keyforge with us. And I think you'll enjoy it. So that's my quick plug. Any of you guys have a quick plug?
Nah.
No. I'll keep my plug out of this episode so you all can go to sleep.
Yeah. I ain't going to bed anytime soon. I had coffee.
That's true.
Yeah, Jay's just waking up. Hey, let's get on TTS and jam some Destiny.
Yeah, we're about to record 10 games.
Awesome. All right. Well, guys, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you like and sub and share this with all your friends. Jump into our Discord. I'm sure Mike will
That's
be
the most important thing. Yeah.
And throw the link in there. We have been getting new people every day. There's over 100 people in the Discord, so come and join the conversation. it's been really fun to see people throwing out ideas and because our whole goal with Unplayable is creating a community of people that are kind of like us, where we're like, we'll get competitive sometimes, but most of the time we just want to play lots of fun games that we enjoy. And so come join the conversation and be a part of that. So I think that's it. Did I miss anything?
You did a fantastic job.
Oh, thank you. You're so good. All right, guys. See you in the next episode.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.